A prison guard for Jeffrey Epstein Googled just minutes before. Wait, what the? A prison guard for Jeffrey Epstein Googled him just minutes before he was found deceased and made a mysterious $5,000 cash deposit 10 days before Epstein's death. Tova Knoll was previously accused of falsifying records. Her charges were later dropped. Knoll made multiple suspicious Google searches less than an hour before Epstein was found deceased. Latest on Epstein in jail at 5:42 a.m., then again at 5:52 a.m., less than 40 minutes before her colleague found the disgraced financier in his cell by 6:30. The outlet also reports the Chase Bank had flagged cash deposits to the FBI in November 2019. So this is an old video from 6 years ago. Epstein jail guards charged with falsifying records.
Guards are under arrest, charged in connection with the death of accused sexual predator Jeffrey Epstein. Federal prosecutors say Michael Thomas and Tova Knoll failed to make mandated cell checks and then falsified records on the night Epstein reportedly killed himself. Surveillance video shows no one entered the special housing unit that night, and no one checked on Epstein over the course of 8 hours, 15 feet away from the guard's desk.
A surface document published in the DOJ's Epstein database reveals that an inmate once told the FBI that he overheard prison guards talking about covering up Epstein's death on the morning the sex offender died. The document includes 5 handwritten pages of notes from the unidentified inmate's FBI interview. The whole wing, as I understand it, overheard this exchange among guards.
Well, new revelations from inside of the Epstein files are raising new questions about Jeffrey Epstein's death, his supposed suicide. Specifically, it's a new, never-before-seen account from someone who was also being housed inside the same jail as Jeffrey Epstein, but there is also new reporting out from the New York Post about how the guards who were supposed to be watching Jeffrey Epstein, one of them was Googling Epstein in the minutes before his body was found, and also had taken in some suspiciously large cash deposits into her bank account. But I want to start with this accounting from the inmate inside of the jail. This is reporting from Julie K. Brown, who is, of course, the investigative journalist at the Miami Herald, who broke open Jeffrey Epstein's story again in 2018, where she goes with the headline, DOJ docs FBI interview raised new questions about Epstein's suicide. An FBI 302 interview with an inmate in the Metropolitan Correctional Center, where Jeffrey Epstein was found dead on August 10th, 2019, told agents that he overheard a prison guard and others talking about covering up Epstein's death. The inmate in an FBI interview on August 28th, 2 weeks after Epstein's death, claimed that he and other inmates heard the commotion after Epstein's body was found in his cell. Quote, "Breathe, breathe." He recalled officers shouting about 6:30 a.m. Then he heard an officer say, "Dudes, you killed that dude." Unquote. A female guard then replied, "If he is dead, we're going to cover it up and he's going to have an alibi, my officers." The FBI notes said. The inmate claimed that the whole tier overheard the exchange. So, this is quite the claim to be made by an inmate there. And it should be noted that you would hope that the FBI did follow on interviews with some of the other inmates being held inside of that correctional center, that if everybody on the tier heard that, then you would think that other prisoners would be able to verify this account as this one prisoner whose identity we don't know because it is redacted within the files has laid out. This should be pretty easy to follow up on. But so far from trolling through the Epstein files, we have not seen another one of these 302 interviews with another member of that jail come to light. Could still be. There is millions of files here to piece through. They still could, but at least as of right now, it does not appear that the Department of Justice really did the necessary follow-up here. The FBI did not do the necessary follow-up in its investigations as to exactly what happened around Jeffrey Epstein's death. Returning here to the reporting later, after learning Epstein had died, he said inmates said, quote, "Miss Knoll killed Jeffrey." The handwritten 5-page report was taken in connection with a proffer agreement with the witness. The report noted the name of the inmate is redacted from the report, and this is the screenshot from the top of that report where it makes clear that this was done with regards to a proper agreement. He identified the female guard as Tova Knoll, one of 2 correctional officers who were later charged with falsifying reports so that it appeared from their records that they had made their rounds that night when they had not. The charges against her and the other officer, Michael Thomas, were later dropped, but both were fired. On Saturday, the New York Post also found this nugget in the Epstein files that Knoll had deposited thousands of dollars in her account in the months and weeks before Epstein was found dead. I want to pivot over now to that New York Post reporting because that also raises some pretty significant questions about what the FBI followed up on. Specifically, those large cash payments, I think, should raise a lot of red flags to anybody who is hearing this fact for the first time, and should have raised flags within the FBI, but it's not clear exactly what if any follow-up they did on these revelations. So this is the New York Post reporting Epstein prison guard Googled him minutes before body found and made mysterious deposit before pedophile suicide per the DOJ. One of Jeffrey Epstein's prison guards Googled the sex predator minutes before he was found dead and also made a mysterious $5,000 cash deposit 10 days before the predator's jail cell suicide. New Department of Justice documents revealed to Noel was one of 2 Metropolitan Correctional Work Center workers accused of falsifying records to say they checked on Epstein throughout the night before his August 10, 2019 suicide. The guards were fired, but criminal charges against both were later dropped. Noel Googled, quote, latest on Epstein in jail at 5:42 a.m. and then again at 5:52 a.m., less than 40 minutes before her colleague, Correctional Officer Michael Thomas, found the disgraced financier dead in his cell by hanging at 6:30 a.m., according to an FBI record of Noel's internet search history that night. And I can corroborate that reporting. This is from the actual Epstein files here. This Google search for latest on Epstein in jail at 5:42 and 56 seconds and 552 and 29 seconds, noted here inside of the Epstein files, inside of the FBI's own notes on this case. And you'll see here that this is highlighted. This is not something that I added. This is inside the document. The FBI did this, highlighted this particular search. So it was something that was notable to them, but whatever follow-up they did is not exactly clear. Returning here to the New York Post report earlier that shift, Noel, who's 37, shopped for furniture online and snoozed on the job instead of making the mandated checks on Epstein every 30 minutes, while Thomas perused motorcycles. Prosecutors said the FBI highlighted the eerie internet search in its 66-page forensics examination of the Bureau of Prisons' desktop computers of Noel and Thomas. It was the only search highlighted. When questioned during her sworn statement to the DOJ in 2021, Noel denied Googling Epstein. Quote, I don't remember doing that, unquote. She claimed, according to a transcript, she said FBI records were not, quote, accurate. I don't recall looking him up, unquote. Noel, who has since been sued in Westchester County Supreme Court for alleged assault at her new job as a medical office assistant at Monteper Einstein Advanced Care, also claimed to investigators that everyone at the Manhattan federal lockup failed to do rounds and falsified records about it. Quote, I've never worked in the special housing unit and actually done rounds every 30 minutes. She told investigators. Meanwhile, Chase Bank flagged cash deposits in Noel's bank account in a suspicious activity report to the FBI in November 2019. Another file from the DOJ revealed a total of 12 deposits began in April 2018, the bank said, and culminated in the largest deposit for $5,000 on July 30th, 2019, the record showed. So again, that is just days before Epstein is found dead. She gets a $5,000 deposit. I am not saying that these things are explicitly linked. There is no proof that they are, but the fact that this did happen was flagged to the FBI, and it's not clear what, if any, follow-up the FBI did on these reports, is a pretty big question that I think merits some sort of explanation from the FBI. Returning here to the reporting, the files only contain Noel's bank records beginning in December 2018. They show 7 cash deposits totaling $11,880. Noel started working at the special housing unit where Epstein had been held beginning on July 7, 2019, just weeks before his death. Noel, who drove a $62,000 2019 Land Rover Range Rover, wasn't asked about the cash during her DOJ interview records show. An internal FBI briefing also released in the DOJ files reveals the agency thought Noel was likely the mysterious orange shape spotted in blurry surveillance video near Epstein's cell around 10:40 p.m. that night. Quote, at approximately 10:40 p.m., a correctional officer believed to be Tive Noel carried linen or inmate clothing up to the L tier. Last time any correctional officer approached the only entrance to the shoe tier, the agency wrote, Epstein apparently hanged himself with strips of orange cloth. In a sworn statement, Noel, who was working a double shift that day, told investigators she last saw Epstein alive somewhere around 10 and that she never gave out linen ever or clothing to inmates because that's done the shift before. The identity of the pixelated orange blob in the video has been a source of debate and conspiracy since the FBI released the footage last summer. I want to return here to this earlier note here, that Noel, who drove a $62,000 2019 Land Rover Range Rover, wasn't asked about the cash during her DOJ interview, records show. So she's not being followed up on. I think that is why there are so many questions around Epstein's death, is that it appears that there were so many leads that the FBI did not follow up on. And that is what allows the space for a lot of this thinking of, did Epstein really die by suicide? There's no conclusive proof in any one direction here. But there is so much at this point to be noted that it should merit further questioning and further investigation by the FBI, or at the very least an explanation why many of these questions were not asked. If you followed up on them in some other way, just tell people. This should not be that difficult. But for whatever reason with Jeffrey Epstein, it is like pulling teeth to get this administration, and really anyone in power to address it and to do it in any sort of actual meaningful way